important to understand how the state law we wrote works. So number one, we are authorizing local governments to put these cameras on through private vendor. That vendor was convicted of bribery in another state and flagged by a DLS audit that Montgomery County's procurement was flawed, no bid, and didn't have proper controls in there. And nevertheless, other counties are adopting this program sight unseen. So I think it's very important to understand what's going on here. Now, the way the state law operates and the way what I thought we were voting on when we issued a $250 ticket was, you're behind a school bus and you don't stop, you're a jerk. $250 ticket. That's what I thought was going on. But when I saw that these were the locations and pulled out the satellite image, I said, wait a second. And so I asked for data in 2019. They refused to turn over data about where these infractions were going on. We had to pass a law last year, and I finally got data. Over 70% of these infractions are from these multi-lane state highways. It is not drivers behind the bus. And I have much more I can tell you about this. I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is the 2022 School Bus Monitoring System and Safety Stop Review. This is the report that Delegate Moon is talking about. This is page 10 from the report that Delegate Moon was speaking of. Specifically, these sections are roads with no divide or barrier to protect approaching vehicles from these stop arm camera tickets. And I just wanted to put this out here so you could see the type of numbers he's speaking of. But I went ahead and did one other thing. I went ahead and I divided the violations from the opposite direction into the total violations so you could get an idea of the percentages he's talking about. From all the violations in these specific areas, how many people are actually getting tagged from the approach? Like I said, the lowest I see here is 73%, and the highest I see is, I believe, 94.32%.
And I have much more I can tell you about this. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, to make it very clear, in this photograph here, if there were a median strip down the middle of that road, there would not be a
There would be no $250 ticket if we put a median there. Now, here's the other thing. I tried to put in a bill saying, okay, can we at least take, because look at the data I sent you in the packet. You have bus stops, single bus stops in my district that are generating nearly $1 million in fines every single year, and that number is not going down. So there's a sucker driver that replaces every driver that gets this ticket, because these are high volume, 8-lane state highways that we chose not to pay for a median on, and these are mostly lower income roads. The county proposed a series of voluntary reforms, and it turns out they can't implement any of them. They can't engineer changes on state highways. So they take the money and they're not going to fix the road because they can't. The court, they said they were going to do the citations in a foreign language because so many of the locations where this confusing situation was happening were next to CASA's headquarters is in the top 10 locations. And they can't because the district court doesn't do citations in a foreign language. The county school system said in 2019 they were going to look at moving the school bus stops off the main road. They refuse. And so it calls into question whether they actually think this is a dangerous condition warranting a $250 ticket. So I tried every single year to say, take the money and build the medians. No one will let me do that. The bill this year came in and it said, can we at least take the money that's generated from state highways and steer it back to fixing these dangerous school bus stops on state highways? And they didn't want to do that. So I'm here before you with this compromise, which is to have state highway begin to look at doing these engineering changes, and in the meantime, to give people the first offense off before we start issuing these tickets only in these confusing multi-lane highways. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Senator Kelly, was your light on? Can I ask a quick hypo, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
So there are highways. So first of all, I have 3 children like you that I care deeply about their safety. My kids go to public schools and they ride the school bus. So, but there are 4-lane highways with quasi-medians in the middle. So these are turn lanes, or there are partial medians, but not a continuous median, that people treat like a median, but may not be technically defined as a median. So under current law, where these quasi-medians exist, are people still eligible to receive tickets when they perceive there to be a median right there?
So here's the stat. I'm going to read you the language from the statute. It says this section does not apply to a driver of a vehicle on a divided highway if the school vehicle is on a different roadway. So I don't know is the answer to the question, and that there's definite ambiguity there. Maybe Senator Fulton knows. But
Well, I'm sorry to lead the witness. Your district and mine both have Georgia Avenue, which has a 5th-lane turn lane that is treated as a median because it's not a travel lane, but
you may know.
but it's not a median for purposes of our law, and so people are getting ticketed on the far side of places like Georgia Avenue and other major state highways that don't have a full median between, but have what people perceive as a median because it's not a travel lane. And I think that's one of the big issues that we see here.
That's right.
So, Senator Kelly.
I cannot find the section of Georgia Avenue that they were speaking of, but I used their description and I went ahead and found a similar section of roadway of what I believe best describes it. I did find this in a different state, so I went ahead and took a picture on Google Maps, and this specific multi-lane roadway is called a 2-way left turn lane in center, and they're trying to figure out if you have to stop. For a bus, if it's on the opposite side of that. So if you're on the approach and the bus is over here, yes, you have to stop because Maryland state law says you need a physical barrier. However, there are some states, and this is only because in this specific incident where you've got 4 lanes and then the center left turn lane, you do not need to stop, such as California, Washington State, Ohio, South Carolina, and Kentucky, but that might change because there's currently on a bill on the table to try to require the same barrier. Why? I have no idea. When I was looking for an example on Georgia Avenue, like the one I showed you before this, I came across this section of road, and it's got double lines designated as a reversible center lane, so they can change the flow how they see fit to alleviate congestion on the roadway. But then I started thinking, if a bus stopped along this road, and I'm not sure if it does, but I know there's a lot of roads like this around the DC area. If a bus was way over here on this right-hand lane, stopping by this sidewalk, and you were on the approach on this left lane way over here, you would be expected to see that bus through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lanes of traffic. Which, again, is probably why they're getting so many tickets in Montgomery County, Maryland. Side note, an engineer put this boom up, very expensive boom, with the signage. When they put that signage up and they build this boom, they're trying to make sure that a car coming up on one of these lanes will be able to see that sign without having to deviate their eyes over multiple lanes of traffic, so they can see what's going on. So, food for thought.
That's right.
So, Senator Kelly.
Follow up with an isn't that so question to say that when my beloved stepson brought one of these very expensive tickets home, we went to go look at the road to see if it was divided because I was sure it would be, and in fact it was, except for like maybe a 10-foot gap where there was no median, which is where the bus stop was located. Isn't that so?
Wow. Clever. All right.
Lots of anecdotes here. Senator Fulton.